Hey guys, welcome back to Hook with Anime. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Sharp blue eyes assessed his surroundings, his muscles taut and absolutely still so as not to give away his position. The experienced gaze of his partner's Sharingan analyzing every and all details that could help or hinder their mission, only further comforting him in its reliance. The feared duo of Uzumaki and Uchiha was once again dispatched to deal with another high-rank missing nin. Having fully checked out the clearing in one of the forests on the edge of Fire Country's borders, Naruto decided to break the self-imposed radio silence. Taka, I can't see anything from here. I'm going in, give me 5 minutes, then cut around behind their camp while I check to see if they're actually here or not. Naruto, or Kuma as he is known with his mask on, aged 22 Junin of Konohagakure no Sado, spoke to his best friend and partner Sasuke, code named Taka. Understood, I'll radio if I see them. Come by me, Taka replied before taking off. Even though it had been 5 years since the end of the Fourth Shinobi World War, defectors and other missing nins seemed to be in abundance for the hidden villages to clean up after. 5 years since the both of them decided to team up and join Anbu, one to prove his loyalty to Konoha, or really Konoha's next Hokage. The other to gain and perfect the necessary skills he needed to complement his raw power. Still, he knew this was going to be one of his last missions, one of the last times he'd be able to don the prestigious Anbu mask and uniform. One of the last times he and his friend Sasuke would be out in the field completing missions instead of stuck behind a desk doing paperwork. Naruto sighed even as he inwardly cringed at remembering his upcoming promotion. Oh, how he dreaded the day. Not because he didn't want a promotion, he liked having extra money after all. No, he just didn't want this particular promotion. Sasuke, because of his general skill level and mission completion rate, would be promoted as one of 3 Anbu commanders. Naruto, on the other hand, would be eased into the position of Hokage by shadowing Tsunade for a few months and finally taking office officially. When he was younger, he dreamt of the day he would enter the spotlight and be Hokage. Now it just meant he'd finally have to stop hiding from the very village he swore to protect. They didn't hate him anymore, not since he defeated Pain, but he still hadn't received the acknowledgement he craved from his village. He used to think that being Hokage meant people would finally see him as Naruto the person, not Naruto the demon fox child. The opposite had happened. Where before he used to receive glares and scorn, now he received odd looks and worship. They knew him as war hero Naruto, better than demon brat, but still not the person he wanted to be seen as. Now everyone expected him to solve all their problems all the time, make new alliances, and keep away evil, all while signing autographs and making sure everyone was always happy. He was essentially a poster boy and recruiter for the shinobi career. Basically, he viewed himself as a fake. Still, he would need to reminisce on his life at a later date. For now, there was a mission to complete, so he decided to enter the camp warily. Careful not to make much noise and to stick to the shadows even under this moonless night, Naruto headed straight to the enemy nin's supplies. He would need to destroy them in order to more easily overpower them later on. Unfortunately, he never reached his destination as a powerful hand suddenly shot out from underground and tightened around his neck, suffocating him. Managing to get a grip on the wrist and twist the arm, he freed himself and back-flipped away from his assailant. Taking a measured look at him now, he instantly recognized him as one of the last remnants of root left over after Danzo's fall. If it isn't the Jinchuriki of the leaf, I will kill you here and then head after your partner in order to complete our vengeance for Danzo-sama, the nameless root operative stated in a half-crazed tone of voice. Naruto instantly knew that this man was dangerous if he so easily recognized him, as well as knew Sasuke was here too. That led him to only one conclusion. There remained a leak in Konoha's security that allowed classified information to leave the village. He would have to do everything possible to capture this man alive. Knowing who the leak was would solve many problems and stop future attacks on Konoha. Before he could speak up and try to apprehend this shinobi, Sasuke's voice lashed out in the darkness, cutting through his plans. Chidori Iso, and a blade made of pure lightning pierced the root shinobi through the chest, effectively ending another monologue before it started. So my intel was right, and the traitorous Uchiha was here as well. He smirked with a drop of blood rolling from his mouth before continuing. Too bad you're both going to die today. He then purposefully and carefully started heading straight for Naruto, disentangling himself painfully from the spear of lightning. He instantly whipped around and threw a handful of kunai with explosive tags on them in Sasuke's direction. As soon as they left, however, he dropped to his knees in pain and coughed up even more blood. Sasuke, having escaped the explosions, decided to try and get some information from him before attacking once more. A shinobi of his caliber that had evaded Hunter Nin for years was not to be taken lightly after all. Who else is here? And where did you buy the classified information about our identities? If you truly loved Konoha as you claim, you will cooperate before we are forced to eliminate you. Sasuke growled out from where he was sitting on the tree branch out of any kunai's range. I'm alone. I alone carry the will and dreams of Danzo-sama. When we meet again, he will reward me for being his most faithful follower. Cackling madly after this proclamation, he proceeded to turn his back on Sasuke and point a finger in Naruto's direction. If you had been the proper weapon as you were destined, Konoha would be great once more. If nothing else, I will take you down with me, he shouted out and purposefully started walking in Naruto's direction. As he approached Naruto, who was watching him warily, he started to remove his armored vest and started laughing as seals started appearing on his body, seemingly leaking ink. Sasuke immediately recognized the seal array as he had encountered it once before and seen its devastating power. Kuma, what are you standing there for? Move out of the way. That's the reverse tetragram sealing kinjutsu. If he captures you in its range, it'll take you down with him. Having yelled out his warning, Sasuke immediately leapt away and further into the trees to distance himself from the suicidal shinobi. Naruto, on the other hand, appeared frozen and hadn't moved an inch. Move, will you? Hurry, you have only a few seconds before it's too late. Sasuke cried out one more time, hoping to convey how serious this was. It's no use, Uchiha bastard. You see, for all your renowned power, the Jinchuriki is as arrogant as any other. He allowed me to get too close to him and I put a cursed seal on him that immobilizes him until I say so. Ha 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 ha. Come, Uchiha, try and get to him before he dies. Join him in the afterlife where you shall both face the wrath of Danzo-sama. The root shinobi informed the duo with no small amount of pleasure in his voice. Damn it, Naruto, just break out of it. I used Susanoo, you should be able to use Kyuubi's chakra. Damn it, what are you waiting for? Something must be wrong. He must somehow be blocked from using its power. There's only one thing to do. I have to get you myself and try and use Kamui to move us out of there, even if I'm not sure I can copy a Mangekyo Sharingan's ability like Madara could, thought Sasuke as he rushed forward to try and reach Naruto before the crazed missing nin. Naruto could only watch wide-eyed as Sasuke decided to head immediately towards him as he finally broke free from the seal. As soon as Sasuke settled next to him with the man from Root no more than 5 feet away, Naruto reached into his pouch for the special kunai he'd been working on since joining Anbu. He knew he only had one shot at this, as even now he sensed the reverse tetragram seal activating and heading their way. He immediately threw the tri-pronged kunai as hard as he could and went through the 5 hand seals required to activate it. Dragon, horse, snake, ram, boar. Hiraishin. All he recalled was grabbing onto Sasuke as he saw a pitch-black orb of energy erupt from the chest of the Root operative. Sasuke, as soon as he touched down next to Naruto, immediately grabbed onto his shoulder and barely noticed him throwing a kunai into the trees. As he felt Naruto's hand grasp his shoulder in return, and he picked up on the orb of death heading his way, he immediately cried out Kamui. Unbeknownst to him, he activated his undeveloped Jikukan jutsu at exactly the same time as Naruto's equally untrained Jikukan jutsu was triggered. All he recalled was the unrestrained power of the cursed seal exploding from the missing nin's chest and engulfing them both before he felt weightless and euphoric. This feeling lasting about half a second before both Anbu operatives, friends, and untrained Jikukan jutsu users were assaulted with immeasurable pain that felt as if their very bodies were being ripped apart. Pain worse than any he'd ever felt, his very being cried out in agony as it seemed to be dissolved piece by piece while hurtling through space. As the feeling of hurling through the air carried on, Naruto felt his grip on Sasuke's shoulder slacken until he finally was forced to let go. Feeling the distance between the two inexplicably increased, Naruto panicked and called out to the only person that might be able to help. Almost immediately the voice of his lifelong tenant spoke up from what seemed like a disturbed sleep. What is it, brat? I thought you were on a mission right now. Why are you hurling through the air? And why in the 9 levels of hell are you falling apart, brat? I'll do what I can, but how the hell could you let yourself be hit by anything that could cause this much destruction? Kurama rumbled a bit irritatedly. Even though his jailer seemed to be in a perilous situation, Kurama seemed to be in a deceptively calm mood. Kid took a lot of damage on this one. This is gonna hurt him a bit. Bah, if he didn't want pain he should have avoided the stupid attack. Nothing much I can do except flood him with my chakra and hope I can heal and rebuild him faster than he's being torn apart. Ah. Lots of pain. Help. Long story short, Used Hiraishin and Sasuke used Kamui to escape from a double suicide jutsu on our last mission. But since Hiraishin is supposed to be instantaneous, I don't know what's going on right now and I need you. Oof. Naruto let out before he viciously crashed onto a pile of rocks face down. Trying to regain his composure, Naruto slowly and painfully lifted himself from the boulder he was lying on and peered confusedly at what was in front of him. As he stared in wonder at waves of water crashing upon the shore of what he deemed to be an island, he couldn't help but drop his jaw in shock. Last he checked, he was in a forest, nowhere near the sea, and he was supposed to flash over to the kunai he threw, not to sea country or water country. The shock, the pain, the new environment, it all finally got to him. Suddenly he no longer knew if what he was hearing was the roar of the ocean or the onset of a severe concussion. Darkness engulfed him and his body once again crashed down to the floor and he knew no more. TNT, brat. Brat. Kit. Wake up. Wake up, brat. Wake the hell up, you lazy, puny, pathetic excuse for my jailer. Wake up this instant or I swear I'll stop you from ever having children before you're 60. Blue eyes snapped open and Naruto shot up from his position on the floor of what looked to be a jail cell, greatly surprising the lean old man with long white hair and eyebrows by his side. Taking a second to quickly assess his surroundings, Naruto realized this old man must have been taking care of his wounds as he had bandages wrapped around his arms, head and chest. Kurama, what happened? Where am I? Naruto asked, since he clearly remembered being in a forest, then by the sea, and now he was apparently captured. How the hell should I know, brat? I've been trying to wake you for the last few hours. Even though I don't know where you are, you should know how much damage you took. You're not going to like this. Kurama tried explaining to Naruto. What do you mean? And where's Sasuke? Did I get captured or something? It doesn't make sense though. Why would they treat my wounds if I did? Naruto was looking around frantically for his friend and growing more confused by the second. Don't know where the Uchiha is, but he certainly wasn't around when you woke me the first time. I can tell you that much. I didn't sense his unique chakra anywhere. As for the bad news, well, remember how you always were made fun of for being a short brat with a loud mouth? Receiving a mental nod from Naruto, Kurama decided to continue. It seems that you took so much damage from whatever hit you that I had to basically rebuild your entire body. For some inexplicable reason, instead of healing you in your current age, you now look like the annoying loudmouth that you used to be when we first met. What? You mean I'm a kid again? Naruto froze after his outburst. No, my voice is childish again. And why the hell am I so short? I wasn't this short before. Damn you, Kurama, you did this on purpose. I know you did, you annoying furball. Now my clothes don't even fit anymore. After ranting and raving for a few minutes, Naruto finally calmed down and looked over at the old man that was staring at him in slight confusion and as if he were looking at a crazy person. Rubbing the back of his head sheepishly, Naruto decided to ask him some questions to figure out where he was. Aha, sorry about that, G-san. But I don't know how I got here and I tend to talk to myself when caught off guard. Do you know where we are? I think I hit my head pretty hard and I don't remember ever getting here. Oh, I see. You were very injured last night when the guards brought you in. You were covered in blood and they must have thrown any clothes they could find on you since they're too big for you. Well, to answer your questions, we're on a small island off the shores of the Akane Resort. You must have been captured the same as the rest of us by the dark magic cult attempting to build the R system to revive the dark wizard Zeref. My name is Rob and I decided to look after you last night since all the kids seem to have been taken away to a different cell last night. The now named old man Rob told him as Naruto listened intently, hoping to figure out where he was. Nothing that he heard made sense though. Where the hell was the Akane Resort? And yeah, jutsu were pretty cool and powerful, but the only cult he knew of was the now extinct cult of Jashin and they didn't think it was magic. Zeref was a name he'd never heard of before, but he definitely didn't like the sound of a system that could bring back the dead. It sounded worse and even more evil than that damned Edo Tensei jutsu Orochimaru used to love so much. I can see you don't understand everything that's happened to you, child. Unfortunately, what I'm trying to say is that you are now a slave just like everyone else here, forced to help in building the Tower of Heaven. Rest for now though. The guards want this place built as fast as possible. Even if you have injuries, they'll be sure to try and make you work. Rob spoke to him in a kindly manner whilst trying all the while to get him to lie down. Seeing his determined look, Naruto sighed and decided to do as he said. He lay down on the ground again and decided to talk to Kurama once more. Hey Kurama, did you get all that? What do we do now? Sleep, idiot. You still don't know where you are, but I'm sure you can escape from this island given enough time. Our system sounds dangerous, so if need be we can always entertain ourselves by going full Biju mode and blowing the island sky high. Everything else can wait till you're back on the mainland and can get your hands on a map. I guess you're right. I am still pretty tired. I'll just take a quick nap and figure things out tomorrow. Wake me up if something happens. A snort from Kurama caused him to raise an eyebrow in question. I told you I basically rebuilt your pathetic and scrawny hide. I'm even more tired than you from using so much chakra. I'm not your alarm clock. Try not to get killed in the next few hours. Actually, knowing you, just pipe down and keep quiet while I sleep to regain some strength before you get yourself caught up in something we'll both regret. Only managing to chuckle in agreement, Naruto decided Kurama deserved his rest and he'd let him sleep for a while. He then put his head down, smiled gratefully at Rob and closed his eyes to enter into the world of dreams he deserved after such a long day. TNT. Great plumes of smoke curled up and around the Tower of Heaven. Heavy explosions went off in countless locations as the slaves of the tower revolted and tried to overthrow the black cult. This was the world Naruto awoke to as he rose groggily from his sleep. Looking around and finding no sign of Rob, but the door wide open, he decided to go and find out what was going on. As he climbed the stairs of where he was held, he ascended to what he believed was the ground floor and could barely believe his eyes. All around him there was a massive fight going on. It seemed Rob was right and this was a tower where slaves worked to build something. But a revolt had broken out. Uniformed guards, it seemed, were losing ground to all the slaves that were fighting against them. Explosions were going off from what he could only assume were more guards, even if they were floating and shooting powerful flames out from their mouths. As he looked around trying to find the one person that he knew, he finally spotted him in front of a cowering girl in the line of fire from well over 20 of those guards. Naruto's eyes widened in amazement as he saw old man Rob seemingly deflect the powerful blasts hurled his way from those floating guards. He then proceeded to return fire with what he could only guess was a wordless and signless kaiten jutsu. Naruto quickly darted forward and grabbed Rob before he fell over whilst creating a clone to grab the red-headed girl and evade the rocks falling from the ceiling after Rob's attacks. "What are you doing here, kid? I may not look it, but I am still a mage. Those soldiers are headed our way. If I must, I will give my life to protect these children you see around you. Now run while I hold them off. Run and take little Erza with you. Do not worry about me. I will protect everyone, up until I cannot stand anymore." Rob exclaimed as he once again stood in front of Erza and Naruto, spreading his arms out wide hoping to deflect the blasts from the remaining guards. What he heard and saw next surprised him more than anything he'd seen in his last few years as a slave. Doden. Doryuheki, a massive wall of earth adorned with toads' faces, erupted from the ground in front of Rob and took the full force of the weapons blasts from the guards. After, the young blonde boy he'd treated last night rushed forward, ran up the wall and landed on top to cry out, "Doden! Dosakiryu," after which the very wall broke down and transformed into a dragon made of stone before launching itself in pursuit of the now fleeing guards. "So you're a mage too, young man?" Panting as he had not used magic in a very long time, Rob decided to check over Erza, who was staring wide-eyed at Naruto. No, I'm a Junin of Konoha. Name's Naruto. I can see that a revolt is taking place right now, so that's good. Now to make a door big enough for us all to walk out of here in peace," Naruto murmured as a slightly manic grin crossed his face. It was time to blow things up, which is what he excelled at, and used that jutsu Tamari had taught him not too long ago. Quickly going through the hand signs, he then clapped his hands together and yelled out, "Futon! Kakeami!" and from his hands erupted a net made of wind which proceeded to carve a massive door straight out of the wall of the tower. "What strange magic you use, Naruto. But right now, we must get these kids out of here and onto the boats outside so we can escape," Rob said to him as he was done checking to see if Erza was hurt. "No, wait, Jii-chan. Jellal. We have to save Jellal. We can't leave without him." Erza quickly sprang up and took off to look for Jellal after remembering who it was that inspired her to lead this rebellion. "Naruto, please go after her. I am glad she won't see this, but I'm dying. I used up a lot of magic even though I haven't used any in many years. For a wizard, magic would usually tire them out, but for me it is my very life force and I don't have much time. But even knowing you for only a short while, I can see you're a good and strong person. So please, promise me to look after her. Look after Erza, she of all people has suffered very much here. Please protect her," Rob begged Naruto as he propped himself into a sitting position while trying to emphasize how serious the situation was. "I'll get her out of here, Ji-san. That's a promise. And I never go back on my promises. Rest now, Ji-san. I'll create some clones to help lead out the rest of the people and help Erza out. I'll only leave your side if someone needs me. To Ju Cage Bunshin, over 100 clones popped into existence and instantly took off to herd the rest of the prisoners on the island to the boats outside, while one more took off to locate Erza. Watching the kind old man in front of him die from what he assumed was chakra exhaustion, since that's what he seemed to explain it as, Naruto couldn't help but feel sadness at his departure. This man had helped him last night and then decided to risk and give up his life to protect the young girl from all those guards coming after her. He threw his life in the line of fire, not knowing that Naruto would help him along the way. What he had said, that he would protect those around him until he couldn't stand anymore, was awfully similar to his own Nindo to protect those precious to him. After receiving memories from his clones that the majority of people were now on ships and others were stalking them, he decided to look for Erza himself. Not wanting to just leave him here, Naruto pulled out one of the sealing scrolls used to transport bodies to confirm a kill from his overly large vest. He then sealed Rob into the scroll in order to buy himself enough time to find him a decent final resting ground. A loud explosion caught his attention, and as he looked up he saw Erza falling to the ground, having crashed straight through the wall. He quickly took off and used Shunshin to catch her and cradle her fall before she hit the ground. He looked up to see who or what had done this to her, only to watch as a blue-haired boy pointed his hand at his clone standing behind him and a bright purple circle erupted underneath his feet. Before Naruto could figure out what was going on, his clone went up in smoke, having somehow been dispelled despite not being touched. Must be some sort of seal. Not one I've ever seen before though. Who is this guy and why'd he attack Erza and my clone? Is this the Jellal guy Erza was looking for? Naruto wondered as he reviewed the memories of his clone tracking, and listening in to Erza talking to this guy. What he hadn't noticed, however, was that Erza was looking on in shock and horror at the place where his clone had gone up in smoke. She had already seen Jellal do this upstairs to one of the guards that had tortured them. But this new blonde guy, Naruto, he hadn't done anything evil to either of them. So why did Jellal kill him? Why? Suddenly Naruto felt a massive amount of pressure bear down on him. Looking around, he noticed it came from Erza, who had somehow gotten a glowing circle of her own to erupt under her feet. Yelling, she released all her pent-up power and managed to take control of all the weapons and tools around the tower, making them float in the air. What kind of power is this? Naruto asked himself in shock. Is this some sort of bloodline? How is she controlling all of this, and why did it manifest now of all times? Doesn't matter. I promised to protect her. If she can't control her power for now, since she's apparently attacking her friend Jellal, I'll knock her out and help her control it later. Sorry Erza-chan, but this is for your own good. Having decided on his plan of action, Naruto quickly stepped up behind Erza, went through a few more hand signs and whispered, "Ninpo. Tanuki Niri," before laying a hand on her shoulder and catching her as she fell. As he was setting her down gently, Jellal decided to call out to him with a sadistic smile on his face. "Take her from this island. Take her far away. I don't need her. As a reward for getting rid of the nuisances that controlled this place, I grant her her fleeting freedom. But in exchange for this freedom, you won't speak of this island or its purpose to anyone from the government again. Otherwise, I'll just destroy this place and everything on it and restart somewhere else." "Shut up. I'm going to take her with me when I leave this place. And if I want to tell someone about this place, I will. There's nothing you can do to stop me. As a matter of fact, I'll destroy this place for you. I would never allow such an abomination to exist anyways." A quick clone was created to pick Erza up and take her to a safe location. Following that, Naruto started a long series of hand seals, building his chakra for a massive jutsu. "Careful, brat. You don't want to blow up all the people you just saved, do you? If you unleash that jutsu, you could easily overpower it and endanger everyone else here, even the girl you promised to save. Just destroy all the tools, equipment and machines necessary to help this place run." Kurama interjected before Naruto could blow everything sky high. Sighing as he knew his tenant was right, Naruto decided to aim his jutsu at all the mentioned targets. Kaden. Habashiri, a ring of fire erupted around the tower and around a surprised Jellal. Following up on Kurama's plan to destroy everything usable for building, Naruto unleashed one more jutsu to enhance the flames. Doden. Doryu Taiga. Kneeling, he poured all his chakra into the earth and watched as it transformed into a river of mud that ran all the way down to the holding cells he'd awoken in before it caught on fire, too, acting as if it were a river of tar. If anyone tried to rebuild the tower now, they would have to start from the ground up and waste precious resources as well as time to even pick up where they left off. Do you think this will stop me? I'll bring back Xerza. Nothing can stop me. Even if it takes me years to start again. Xerza will be reborn by my hand. Jellal crowed out, as he started to laugh madly. Naruto could do nothing but walk away. He knew Jellal wouldn't die from this fire. But there was something off about that boy. Something he'd learned from his long years of shinobi life though. You have to pick your battles. He might help Jellal someday, especially if he was important to Erza and probably rob Ji-san. For now though, he'd have to get everyone out of the tower. That was a priority and dealing with the crazed child would come later. Where to now, Naruto? I'm still a bit tired, so don't expect to be able to just mooch off my greatness and chakra to help you find a way back home. Nice of you to check in, Furball. I was thinking that I'd get Erza-chan here to a safe place. Maybe a relative or a nearby village or something. From there I'd find out where I am and then make a plan to head home. Good plan, brat. You might want to check on Chibi Kushina before we leave here though. I've never sensed anything like that strange power she used earlier. You never know if it's all good for her. Doubt it's cursed power like that Jugo character, but it wouldn't hurt to check. Chibi Kushina? What's that mean? For someone hailed as a prodigy in the shinobi field, you sure are dumb, aren't you, brat? That little Erza girl you've decided to protect looks a lot like your mother did at her age. I should know. I was sealed into her at around that age, if you recall. Doubt she's an Uzumaki though. She doesn't feel like you or my previous containers. Still, the resemblance is uncanny. You know, now that you mention it, she does look a lot like Ka-san. That's kinda funny. She could be like the long-lost little sister I never had. Me taking after Tu-san and her after Ka-san. You're right though, I'll check on her as soon as we get on a boat and leave this place. I want to get her as far away from here as possible. Hey boss. I just put Mini Ka-san into that boat on the far end of the docks. Everything's all set to go, so just shove off when you're ready. See ya, his clone having reported in decided to disperse after pointing out which boat to go to. Haha, see brat. Even your copies are smarter than you. Seems like your clone technique doesn't make flimsy copies of you, it makes more intelligent versions instead. Kurama pointed out before he started laughing even harder. A tick mark developed over his eye and Naruto decided to ignore his annoying tenant in favor of checking up and looking Erza over for injuries. An hour into their voyage out at sea, Naruto confirmed that the only thing wrong with her that a few nights of rest and some food wouldn't fix was that right eye she was missing. He had an idea on how to fix it, since he knew no Iryu nin jutsu could regrow an eye save for maybe Tsunade Baon's secret jutsu, but he figured it'd probably be painful for him and downright impossible without Kurama's help. So having decided on his course of action, he settled back and got comfortable as he prepared to talk Kurama into helping him. Kurama, you said that you basically reconstructed my body before we got to that island, right? No. What do you mean no? Those were your exact words. I mean no. I won't help you carry out this stupid plan you're going to try and talk me into. You don't seem to realize how tired I am of your stupid plans. I get nothing out of this, you know. You've spent 5 years working out your father's pride and joy. We may get along better than we used to now, but no one likes to be caged. We're partners, Naruto. You may not do much for me anymore, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit back and let you mutilate yourself. You're absolutely right, course I am. I'm never wrong, brat. Glad to see you finally agree with me. Now what are you going to do to help Chibi Kushina? I'll make you a deal, Kurama. It took me 5 years just to begin to experiment with my father's jutsu, which is one of the highest forms of sealing out there. From here on out, apart from getting better at using Hiraishin, the only thing I'll work on is getting you free without it killing me. How's that sound? The catch, of course, is that you have to help me with my situation here and now. TCH. I'd be a fool to pass up on a chance of freedom, even if we can only make it temporary. Fine, I'll help you with this. Make a clone though to do the operation. Your clones tend to have better control than you do, and you'll need to be paralyzed since this will be painful and I can't have you thrashing around while working. Just answer one question for me before we do this. Sure, what question is it? This isn't one of your so-called precious people. Nor is she a client or some other duty-bound person you've sworn to help. So why go through all the trouble to help this girl? Kurama couldn't help but ask this question, as even though he knew Naruto fairly well and knew about his promises, even he couldn't understand why he'd go this far for this girl. His promise to protect her only took him as far as getting this girl to a safe place without any harm falling on her. Naruto didn't have to take his promise this far. It was even farther than his promise to bring back Sasuke, since then he'd even said he would go as far as breaking every bone in his body and dragging him back to Konoha if need be. Well, it's kind of embarrassing, But since you're helping me, I don't really know why Kurama. I just feel this need to help her and protect her any way I can. If she needs an eye, and I can provide it, I'll help her. I almost feel as if she's my real long-lost sister. I look at her and see my Ka-san and can't help but want to make her happy. I see. It's stupid in my opinion, brat, but I do see. Keep in mind, Naruto. Just because I had the power to help this time doesn't mean I will forever. As it stands, I may not be able to help you again with any chakra for at least a few months, maybe a year. I did it the first time so you wouldn't die. This time it's because you find it important to you to help this girl. There won't be a next time, understand? Now then, let's get started. Alright. Thanks Kurama, you won't regret this. It's a good thing I learned the chakra no Mesu and Shozen Jutsu from Tsunade Baan and Sakura-chan in case Sasuke ever died. Naruto immediately made 2 shadow clones. One to hold him down and use a paralysis jutsu on him while the other performed the surgery. With any luck, by the time they got to shore, Naruto would have successfully transplanted an eye into Erza while Kurama would have regrown that same eye in his head so he wouldn't walk around like Kakashi-sensei all the time. TNT Erza woke up to find herself lying on her back on what appeared to be a boat and staring up at a clear star-filled sky. Naruto, she screamed out before sitting up abruptly and looking around wildly. After taking a look around and seeing she was on a beach somewhere, she started to tear up in her lone uncovered eye. She'd failed to protect him, just like Rob G-chan had protected her. Now they must be far from the Tower of Heaven and she'd never see either one of them or Jellal again. Yes. Naruto's head popped up from the side of the boat. Why are you crying, Erza-chan? You should be happy that you're nowhere near that tower anymore. Besides, I caught some oof. Naruto was cut off and found himself on his back with a crying little girl hugging him for dear life. Naruto couldn't help but be overly confused at what was happening. Sitting up, he decided to hug Erza back and rub her back while trying to calm her down and figure out why she was crying. After Naruto explained about Rob's last wishes, and Erza about why she was so happy to see him, they settled down a bit now that their ordeal was over. After they ate their meal of grilled fish, Naruto finally asked Erza where she wanted to go. Once he found out that she had no more real family, that familiar urge to want to do anything to help her once again rose up in his chest. Perhaps it was the promise he made to Rob, but he couldn't help but compare this to the feeling of wanting to help someone he looked at as more than a friend. Like Sasuke before her, Naruto realized he and Erza shared many things in common. So this feeling of wanting to help her as an older brother was both different but similar to wanting to help Sasuke. Okay, Erza-chan. So where to now? I managed to sneak into that resort and get us some supplies. You mean you managed to waltz in and steal lots of supplies from that one store after they kicked you out for looking like a hoodlum? It amazes me sometimes the lengths you'll go to for some payback on idiots. Still, walking in and pretending to be the owner after using henge was too funny. Stealing their profits for the day was only icing on the cake. Ignoring Kurama's sarcastic yet accurate observations, Naruto continued without pause. So we should be good on both money and all the basics we need to get to whatever town you need. We need to decide tonight so we can leave in the morning. I have a feeling we shouldn't stick too close to Akane Resort for too long. He muttered as an embarrassed blush crept onto his face. Well, there was this one place that Rob Jii-chan always talked about when we worked on the tower. And now that we're free, I want to head there as soon as possible to follow my dreams. Erza piped up, her eye shining with excitement. The other eye was still wrapped in bandages after Naruto had finished the transplant, and he planned on telling her about what had happened tomorrow after a good night's rest. Sure thing, Erza-chan. Where do you want to go? The one place where if you join they look at you and treat you like family. I want to join so I can be part of Rob Jii-chan's family. I want to head to a town called Magnolia Town, and join the guild named Fairy Tail. Chapter 2. 1 week. That's how long it had taken to get from the Akane beach to Magnolia Town. Even though immensely enjoying her time spent with the cheerful blonde, Erza knew they could have gotten here a lot sooner. For being such a powerful mage, he seemingly had absolutely no sense of direction, often getting lost and stepping off the train at the wrong stop and just wandering around the city. On more than one occasion she'd had to drag him back to the train station or to a carriage to get them back on track. Even so, she was very thankful to him even after all the delays. Naruto, having noticed neither of them had any spare clothes, decided to take them both clothes shopping for a few sets. After getting a room at a local inn and bathing, they finally set off to Fairy Tail so they could ask to have Erza join. After asking for directions from a few of the locals, the duo set off for Fairy Tail, all the while Naruto complaining. "Aw man. I can't believe they didn't have any orange. It's the best color ever. If Sasuke Teme sees me like this, he'll never let me live it down. My clothes are so Uchiha. Wearing a pained expression on his face, Naruto turned when he heard the sound of giggling coming from his right. And what's so funny, Erza-chan? If you knew Sasuke like I did, you'd know he would never let me live this down. He'd be all like, HN, this and HN, that. To top it all off, he'd end with a HN Dobi HN, so annoying. What a bastard. Doesn't help that the only comfortable clothes were a blue-collared shirt and white shorts. He finished with a grimace, imagining the ridicule he'd face for dressing like a young Sasuke. Nothing. Just that orange would look really bad on you, Ni-san. Gasping, Erza quickly covered her mouth at the slip of her tongue. She stared wide-eyed at Naruto, fearing he wouldn't like what she'd said and leave her just like her parents had. Instead, he acted as if nothing had happened and pouted. That's cruel, Erza-chan. Orange is the best color ever and I would look amazing in it. He came to a halt and pulled her into a one-armed hug. And I'd be honored if that's how you chose to look at me, Erza-chan. I'll just make sure to never let you down. Beaming and wearing a smile a mile wide, Erza ran to catch up to Naruto as he had moved on and was headed straight for the guild in the distance. He said he wouldn't let me down. He let me call him Ni-san. Erza was happy she'd almost arrived at Fairy Tail, but the highlight of her day was Naruto accepting what Erza said. Fairy Tail, from the sounds of it, a party must be going on in there. They must have heard how awesome I am and started early. Come on, Erza-chan, it's rude to keep guests waiting. Naruto boasted as he puffed up his chest and slowly opened the doors of the guild. All done to relax Erza a bit, as she seemed to grow increasingly nervous with each step closer to reaching the guild. All sound died out as the people inside saw Naruto and Erza. Naruto watched each person closely as they both entered the guild. He saw a table full of children around Erza's age, around his age too, come to think of it. The two of them headed for the bar on the side of the hall and asked for Master Makarov. They waited patiently as a little old man headed their way after hearing their request. Hey there, kids. What can I do for you today? Want to put a request in for the guild? Naruto almost laughed at how comical the master looked. He was shorter than even Erza, who was 11 and was wearing some ridiculous clothes. Schooling his face into a serious expression, Naruto leaned forward and spoke in a hushed tone of voice so he wouldn't be overheard. I'm here on the last wishes of a man named Rob. Unfortunately, he has just passed away recently, so could we discuss this further in private? Come with me. Holding a finger to his lips, Makarov's face adopted a pensive look before walking upstairs. The blonde teen and red-haired little girl looked around once more before following him to the second floor. Once they reached the top, Makarov opened a door to the left and went inside, motioning for Naruto and Erza to enter. Now then, could you start from the beginning? I can tell this isn't a simple matter of informing an old friend of the time and place for a funeral. Makarov said behind his desk as he pointed at two chairs for Naruto and Erza to take a seat. Of course, well, I only just met him over a week ago. I'll explain everything he said to me, but I'm afraid Erza will have to explain everything else. Naruto and Erza then proceeded to explain everything and anything that had happened in the Tower of Heaven. Naruto learned of how long she had met and admired Rob. How she had made friends and been given her last name by Jellal. Every time she mentioned Rob, Erza grew a little saddened but forged through it all because of the silent support Naruto was giving her. Eventually they got to the part of Erza losing an eye and starting the rebellion, which is where Naruto came in. Naruto, feeling wary as his own part of the story started as an Anbu mission, merely mentioned that he had ended up on the island but didn't know how, as he couldn't remember. Makarov took it all in stride, having noticed the bandages wrapped around Naruto's head and Erza's eye. Finally, having recapped on everything up till Rob's plea to take care of Erza, he refrained from mentioning his encounter with Jellal. That sounds like Rob. To take a chance on the next generation and use magic knowing the consequences. Makarov stroked his chin in thought and seemed to be staring off into the past. Stupid fool. Can't say I wouldn't do the same myself. He will be missed. Is there any chance you gave him a proper burial? Naruto nodded but decided to get answers now that he finally had someone to question. Actually, before I get to that, I have a few questions if you could answer them for me. I ended up on that island by some sort of freak accident. I've noticed that this country, these towns and a lot of terms are unfamiliar to me. So I believe I must be very far from home. Could you by chance explain a lot of what I've been hearing? Like what's a mage and a guild, and if you've heard of the elemental nations and specifically Konohagakure no Sado? The following hour of interrogating the master, confused, intrigued, and saddened Naruto. It seemed that although the master didn't know everything there was, he'd certainly never heard of shinobi, konoha, biju, or his biggest hope, the infamous Fourth Shinobi War. Even so, he promised to look further into it and get back to him. Naruto had just nodded and decided not to go into detail about his old world. Naruto had instead learned of the existence and theories of magic, the magic council that governed mages and the role wizard guilds played. That was informative. It does explain a lot though. At least we know why it's taking so long for me to recover. Yeah, and it certainly narrows down my options to find a way home, Naruto replied to Kurama before remembering the exact conversation where most of his questions had popped up. Flashback: Naruto had just finished creating 2 clones and checking to make sure Erza was comfortable and still out cold. He lay down. Just as he was getting ready to have his clone rip his eye out, Kurama spoke up. Listen Brad, I'll help either way, but there is something you should know before we begin. I would have mentioned it sooner, but I doubt it would have made any difference. That, and I don't think it's that big a deal, but you probably do. Well, what is it? Unlike you, I won't live forever, so can you get on with the show? Funny you should mention that. Naruto could almost see the grin crossing Kurama's face. There's something wrong with my chakra. I know the seal is working fine since nothing's changed in here, but something is messing with my control. What's that mean for me and my eye? If it means that you can't grow it back, I'm still going to give it to her. I can always wait till I get back to Konoha or something to find a replacement. Touching, but no, I can still regrow it, but something's making my chakra denser and much heavier than it needs to be. It's like back before we changed the seal and I tried forcing my will on you when you reached 4 tails of power in the Biju cloak. If you remember, my chakra was so dense that it literally burned your skin right off you while growing it back at the same time. Yeah, so? I already know it's going to hurt. Spit it out already, fuzz face. I'm not the most patient person around. Clearly. You're an idiot too, since obviously you never listened to your precious Ba-chan's explanations of why it was so bad to do that. Because it was so dense, my chakra hurting and healing you actually shortened your life. Did the same for Mito, it's why she died much younger than most of your clan. So let me get this straight. For whatever reason, since you obviously don't know and neither do I for some reason, your chakra is much heavier and me using it at all, and especially to regrow an organ, it's actually shortening my lifespan as well as healing me short term. And wait, you don't find this a big deal? What if I die, furball? TCH, you won't die. At least not for the next 10 years, I know that much. Then again, you might be dumb enough to be killed by choking on ramen or something. But yeah, in case you haven't noticed, I stopped healing your injuries from last night too. I started to feel your life growing shorter, so I assumed you wanted to live as long as possible and stopped my chakra. And it's not a big deal because, like I said, you'd do this anyways, consequences be damned. Gritting his teeth in annoyance, Naruto made a note to harass or find some way to prank Kurama in the near future. Fine. You're right though, I am still going to do this. How much of my life am I cutting off out of curiosity? And how long till you think you can have your chakra under control again, since it's obviously not the seal doing this like last time? Don't know. Like I said before, my chakra is not recovering as fast as normal. A few months to a year before I can do what we're used to. Probably a few more months or years after that to train or work some way to fix it without killing you. Depends on how soon we get back to Konoha and if this will fix itself or we do it. Right, that's important. Still, how much longer do I have to live? I never realized Great Aunt Mito died that much younger than any of the clan. Can't give exact numbers since you're a moron of a shinobi. I would say at least 50 or 60 years. Growing your eye back is more delicate and uses more chakra than when we grew your skin back. Chances are it took off close to 20 or so years of your life. Like I said before, this is the last time I do this kind of thing for you. Looking over at the peaceful expression on Erza's face, Naruto felt no regrets about helping her. I understand, and thanks for this. It's well worth a little pain to help Erza. Having said his piece, Naruto signaled for his clone to get started on their eye transplant. Flashback end: Naruto took a minute to lean back into his chair and think. He wanted to discuss everything he'd learned and just remembered with Kurama. So you thinking what I'm thinking? We should say screw Konoha and just live the rest of our lives here? This place sounds like it's full of pushovers. If you train yourself up to cage level again, we could boss everyone around. Just imagine, it's like being Hokage of the country, not just the village. Sweat dropping at Kurama's ramblings, Naruto just shook his head and got back on track. No, this magic thing must be what's messing up your chakra. Since apparently Eternano is everywhere and mixes with the spirit of a person and spiritual flow of nature. It must be mixing with your chakra because of the Shiki Fujin seal tying both our souls together. For whatever reason the seal must throw magic out of whack and disrupt your chakra. Wonder why it didn't do the same to me? Ha 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 ha. Obviously my greatness far outstrips yours. You heard the old man. Only 10% of humans can use magic. You aren't in that 10%. And yet there are a great many magical creatures running around this place. I am one of those now too. It's obvious now that the sheer magnificence of my presence will always eclipse that of my clumsy container. Ha 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 ha. Baka fox. Naruto mumbled under his breath. Stupid furball has all the luck. First he has more chakra than my entire village combined, and now he can use magic too. Did you say something, Naruto? I understand it must be hard not knowing how you ended up here, but what are you going to do now? Makarov asked him, concern showing on his face. Sidestepping the question, Naruto decided to pull out a scroll from his pocket. Handing it over to Makarov, he started to explain what he had done. As I told you before, I'm a shinobi. We shinobi can't use magic, but we do have other ways of doing similar things. This scroll here can store things. I didn't feel it was right to just leave Rob G-san's body back there, so I brought it with us. Just wipe a bit of blood on the top there and the body should be unsealed. Thank you, my boy. I'll be sure to give Rob a proper burial. Don't think I didn't notice how you avoided my question. What are you going to do now? Makarov fixed him with a stern glare as he looked between Naruto and Erza. Erza wants to join Fairy Tail. Rob G-san asked me to protect her and look after her. Seems to me that the best way to do that is to let her live her dream and join. As for me, well, I have a home I need to find my way back to. Having said this, he looked over at Erza to gauge her reaction. It wasn't pretty. Ni-san. You're leaving. But you just got here. Don't go. Erza cried as a tear slowly made its way down her cheek. Frowning at the display in front of him, Naruto heard an echo of his own voice from earlier. I'll just make sure to never let you down. I'd be honored if that's how you chose to look at me, Erza-chan. Making up his mind, he knew what he was going to do. Don't worry, Erza-chan. I won't let you down, remember? I promise to look after you and I never break my promises. Just give me a month, Erza-chan. I need a month to get my affairs in order. There's a friend I have to see if I can find. And hopefully maps to know how far away I am from getting home. I'll be back in a month though, that's a promise. He then pulled out a tissue and wiped away the tear from her eye. Don't look so sad, Erza-chan. I just need to head to Capital Crocus to that big library over there. I'm sure they'll have what I'm looking for. And I'll be back right after to let you know what I'm going to do next. Glad that at least Erza had stopped crying. Naruto didn't want to tell her he had another reason to leave besides looking for Sasuke and a way home. Surely that won't take you a month though, Naruto. We will of course let Erza join the guild if that's what she wants. But why don't you join too? We could always use good people like you too at this guild. Makarov interrupted, not knowing of Naruto's plans. Grimacing at a possible wrench in his actions so early, Naruto heard Erza giggle before she spoke up. Actually, master, Naruto Ni-san is really bad with directions. It took us a week to get here from Akane Beach. Even though it should take less than a day. Come on, Erza-chan. You're supposed to respect your elders, don't embarrass me like that. Scratching the back of his head and looking away in embarrassment, Naruto still chuckled at Erza's comments. If anyone were to ask, he'd blame it on magic messing with his sense of direction though. While at the library, check the current dates too and major historical events. Why's that? You used a Jikukan jutsu at the same time as the Uchiha. That's a spacetime impossibility. We might be in a different dimension similar to your toad summons. Or we might have been flung to a different time from our own. We don't know if it was just our location that changed or something else. Yeah, you're right. Hopefully it's a different dimension. At least I could work on that problem myself. Time though, I don't think even seals can transport people through time. But dimensions have a precedence at least, I mean, that's where we get summons from. Getting up to leave, Naruto walked to the door and opened it before turning back, engulfing Erza in a hug. I'll be back in a month, Erza-chan. In the meantime, practice your magic so you can control it better. And don't get too sad, you'll always have a piece of me with you. See you in a month, Imuto. He said before winking at her and leaving the room. Drama queen. When Chibi Kushina finds out what you did and meant, you better not come crying to me to fix it. Ignoring his ever-talkative tenant, Naruto walked out of the guild and headed for Magnolia Station. It was as he was waiting for the next train to take him back close to Akane Resort that Makarov found him. Now that Erza isn't around, I wanted to ask you something since you seem to want to keep this private, he said as he sat next to him on the bench. What's that then, master? Naruto asked. I may not be the greatest at casting them, but I wouldn't be a good master if I couldn't detect a simple illusion. Granted, this one was a bit tough since it seems restricted to your head, but I want to know why. Why are you hiding anything from Erza? She seems like a good girl, and she cares the world for you. I'm sure whatever it is you're hiding isn't so shameful that she'd turn away from you. Makarov spoke quietly yet with a serious tone of voice. Knowing that he couldn't get out of this now and a bit impressed he'd been found out, Naruto dropped his hinge. It was barely noticeable, but the bandages wrapped around his forehead extended a bit to wrap around his right eye. That and the whisker birthmarks he had disappeared from his cheeks, although he didn't know that. It's nothing I'm ashamed of, master. I just didn't want her getting sad or feeling as if she didn't deserve what I gave her. I noticed she was hurt and missing an eye. I promised to look after her. So I gave her mine. My right eye for hers. It's something she shouldn't have to feel guilty about if she saw it. Glancing at the clock hoping for an escape, Naruto only sighed as his train wouldn't leave for another half hour. That explains it a bit. I was going to take her to a friend of mine to have an artificial eye put in. Your solution works better for her though, as you were right, you'll always be with her. If you want, I can have my friend Porlyuzuka look at your eye for you? Makarov turned to look at him and offered. Never before had he encountered such a selfless individual. One willing to sacrifice an eye for the sake of a promise. Offering his help was the least he could do for this young man. Smiling wryly, Naruto shook his head and decided to explain his dismissal of help. No thank you, it's not necessary. The reason I didn't tell Erza about it is because I can actually grow my own eye back. It's painful, but it was worth it to help her. You see, I didn't know if she'd ever be able to see again without an eye, and well, I had a spare. Eyes widening in surprise at this formidable ability, Makarov had one more question to ask. I see. A talent like that must surely have its downsides. I find it hard to believe regrowing one's organs or vital parts could have no repercussions. Grimacing at being caught out so quickly, Naruto decided to trust Makarov with a slight version of the truth. It does. However, if I tell you, you can't tell Erza about this, understood? No, she deserves to know about how much you've helped her. I can promise, however, not to reveal what price you had to pay for such an ability. In case you've forgotten, she is under the impression that she has no eye. Sooner or later she will find out she does. My guess is sooner. And I will not lie to her if she asks me if I might have an idea how it happened. Knowing this was the best deal he was going to get, Naruto agreed. It's a bit complicated to explain, but basically I have this higher healing ability. Normally it means I can just recover from training and bruises faster. In this case though, I had to pay a bit of a price to regrow my eye. 20 years. It cost me 20 years of my natural life to regrow my eye. So you see, that's why I didn't want Erza to find out the repercussions of giving her my eye. Nodding in understanding, Makarov knew that a young girl like Erza might very well feel guilty if anyone told her what had happened. Can I see your eye then? If there are any problems with it, my friend is a very good healer and can help. Why did you have an illusion of whisker marks on your face anyways? Slowly unwrapping his bandages as there was no point in the get-up anymore, Naruto looked slightly confused at the last question. What's he talking about, Kurama? Is there something wrong with my face? As far as I know, I just hanged my face back to normal and wrapped the bandages over it and my eye. Yawning, Kurama decided to answer Naruto, as he knew he had forgotten to mention something before. Yeah, actually. When I regrew your body, I didn't bother to add the whisker marks back. Originally you had them so I could piss Kushina off when you were born, since she was my container. And I never really had to regrow your face since we changed the seal, so I never removed them. Before the seal I only left them on there hoping to piss you off too. Nearly falling off the bench at the nonchalance of the answer, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle. Kurama did have a bit of a sense of humor. Adding birthmarks just to annoy its previous host. Oh well, a new face is fine. It was annoying having people recognize me so easily back home. Maybe this'll help. Naruto mused quietly. As he turned to look at Makarov, he was confused at the look of amusement on his face. Decided to honor that Ni-san title, Naruto? It will certainly link the two of you as close to siblings as possible now. Pulling a mirror out of nowhere, Makarov decided to show him what he meant. What happened here, Fuzzface? My whiskers are one thing, but what happened to my eye? Don't know. Must be from your mother's side of the family. Recessive genes and all that. Chakra isn't perfect, brat, now leave me alone. Besides, this brings you closer to Chibi Kushina now that she's your sister, doesn't it? Aware that both of his parents had blue eyes, even if his own were like his father's, Naruto couldn't help but tease Kurama a bit. "Ah, you're such a softie, Kurama-chan. I know you did this because you couldn't bear to see Erza so sad about me leaving. When I show her it'll make her happy again, which you probably planned from the beginning, didn't you?" Naruto slyly asked his lifelong companion. "Next time you get wounded, I'm just going to let you bleed out, brat." "Well, my train is almost here, master. I guess the only thing I have to say is take care of Erza." "Oh, and Rob G-san said he died because he ran out of magic. Don't let Erza train too hard then, or you'll deal with me." Naruto said the last part with an air of intimidation to convey how serious he was. Instead, Makarov just laughed. "Don't worry about that, Naruto. Rob didn't die from using too much magic. No, he had a disease that would flare up and put strain on his heart every time he used magic. It's why he left the guild to live a peaceful life. Otherwise, how do you explain him never escaping beforehand and coming back with help?" "Oh, that makes more sense." Chuckling and rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment, Naruto stepped onto the train that had just arrived. Waving over his shoulder, he decided to take a quick nap before he headed back to the Tower of Heaven. TNT that night saw him on the shores of the very island he had escaped from about a week ago. Dressed in dark clothes this time, he slowly crept up to the tower, careful not to alert the guards patrolling. Pulling a spare Anbu mask out of a scroll, he walked up the side of the tower to an open window. "Still don't get why you didn't just kill Jellal a week ago. Wouldn't have solved anything. Plus my clone sensed someone else in the room when it eavesdropped on him and Erza. Whoever it was must be pretty good to control him so easily. Can't have been that good. Jellal is what, 11? How much power do you need to control a child like that?" "Maybe, but I doubt that I would find out who it was if I did kill Jellal right then and there. I want to find the mastermind to this R system thing. If I killed Jellal, then that person hiding would have just left and chosen to build the R system somewhere else. I'd never know who it is, so he'd be free to bring back monsters like Madara and Orochimaru. When I find out who the mastermind is, I can take them out at my leisure." "Can you sense the person you felt in there now?" "I can't tell specific people apart. I can only sense two strong signatures for now. I'll have to sneak closer and find out what's going on." "Don't use any genjutsu. If Makarov was able to spot your henge, then assume these guys will too. Use one of the ninja arts and avoid Kaiten and Doten techniques. Less chance of them recognizing you as the same person from a week ago." Taking Kurama's suggestions to heart, Naruto went through the seals and whispered, "Ninpo, Maizigakure no Jutsu." Slowly his image faded until only slight distortions could differentiate between himself and the wall. Keeping in mind that he had to be quick and find his target, Naruto skillfully navigated the tower to the top floor. Once there, he quickly ducked into the room where Erza and Jellal were tortured earlier. Making sure to stay silent the entire time, he noticed Jellal was talking to an older silver-haired man about some sort of training. The man in question had neat silver hair that fell to his shoulders. Dark eyes and skin that resembled the native people of Kumo were his other distinguishing features. He also seemed to carry some sort of skull-shaped staff. Creeping closer to hear what was going on, Naruto was not disappointed for his efforts. "Come, Jellal. We have already transferred the other kids to our base near Shirotsume. We must now begin your training. After you get to an adequate level, we will concentrate on rebuilding the tower. If that blonde-haired trash comes back, be sure to call me and I'll take care of him." The white-haired man spoke as he steered Jellal out of the room. "Fine, but we must make the tower our priority on our return. Remember who it is that Zerif speaks to Brain. It is me and not you." Following after the now-named Brain, Jellal descended the stairs until they both reached the ground floor. "Do not fail again, Jellal. I care not if you speak to Zerif. You set us far back by allowing all the slaves to escape. Even now, we've only recovered a portion of the people. And not being able to take care of a single child mage, it's pitiful." Brain rebuked Jellal as they made their way out to the boats outside. Deciding he'd heard enough and confirming that Brain was indeed the person he felt earlier that week, Naruto revealed himself. "Sorry to burst your bubble, fellas, but neither of you will leave this place alive. I've heard enough out of the both of you to know you plan to restart the R system. Combined with schemes to enslave more people and plots to go after some blonde mage, I feel it'd be safer to take you two out right now. Who are you and how did you get onto this island? It doesn't matter. I will crush a worm like you here and now. My plans will not be stopped by a mask-wearing wannabe hero." Brain then pointed his staff at Naruto and fired off a spell. Naruto dodged it quickly before returning fire. "Raiden, Raiju Hashiri, his fist encased in lightning. A snarling wolf leapt from his palm before charging Brain head-on. Eyes wide in surprise, Brain barely had time to retaliate with his magic. Even so, this was the first time he'd seen elemental magic used like this. Tokiyami Kaizenkyoku, a wave of dark magic filled with horror-stricken faces crashed against the lightning beast. Before the dust storm could clear, Brain heard Jellal cry out from behind him. Turning quickly, he was able to see him pulled underground, leaving only his head above it. Fairly impressive for scum like you to be able to take out my apprentice. Don't think those cheap parlor tricks will work on me. Brain called out, hoping to lure the masked man out. Not knowing where his enemy was going to attack from next, but guessing it was from underground, Brain launched a preemptive strike. Dakagura BT. As the ground began to implode on itself, Naruto shot out of the earth and called out a technique he hoped would capture his opponent. Raiden. Shichu Shibari. Brain could only watch in curiosity as nothing happened save 4 pillars erupting from the earth surrounding him. So he was caught completely off guard as they shot lightning out towards him and completely immobilized him. Now then, Naruto started, I would love to hand you over to the proper authorities and let them handle this. But I'm afraid that I can't let this tower continue to exist. And if you live with the knowledge of how to build one, I fear someone else will seek you out and try to do the same. So now that I have the 2 of you paralyzed, I can start to take this tower apart. Jellal, you worthless piece of trash. Do something. Surely you have more power than this. Brain yelled as he hoped Jellal would break him out. It's no use, Brain. Yes, I know who you are. I've been spying on you for quite some time, so trust me, you won't get away. Naruto lied as he was hoping to discourage them from escaping. Running out to the edge of the island and jumping on top of the water, Naruto turned after he made it a fair distance away. Brain, having thought the fool had left them there by themselves, was filled with a sense of impending doom as a wave of power descended upon him and Jellal. Knowing it could only be the masked person out in the ocean, he continued to try and free himself. After he freed his hand, he could only watch in dread as the masked fighter yelled out his attack and he saw it rush forwards and engulf them all. Naruto, as soon as he got out a fair distance away, decided to launch his most powerful lightning attack. Normally used against large groups of enemies, he felt it would be great to use on the tower. The downside being it required massive amounts of chakra and well over 50 hand seals. That's why he had to have both of his enemies captured before he could attempt it. Otherwise they could stop him before he could even begin. Completing the last seal, Naruto gripped his right hand with his left and stuck his right palm out in front of him with the fingers pointed skywards. Raiden. Harayu Gekizoku Shinten Reiho. A blinding light filled the heavens as a massive blue electricity blast rocketed from his palm and headed straight towards the tower and anything near it. Staying only long enough to confirm that nothing was left after that, Naruto decided to save his chakra and Hiraishin back to Akane Beach, where he'd left a new kunai. As he landed on the beach and swayed on his feet from the tiring effects of that massive jutsu, Naruto almost felt like dancing in victory. Until his tenant decided to kill his mood. Don't know why you're celebrating, brat. Instead of interrogating your enemy and taking apart the tower piece by piece to make sure no one could ever rebuild it, all you did was shoot jutsu like it was going out of style. What are you going on about now, Kurama? I completed my mission, didn't I? Destroyed the tower, and found out the mastermind behind the plan. You may know enough jutsu to impress your copycat sensei, but that doesn't mean you are strong. I am only trying to warn you, Naruto. You no longer have me to rely on in a tight situation. True, that hasn't happened in years, but you are no longer the Anbu elite of 2 weeks ago. You are once again in the body of a 13-year-old. This means, you are slower, weaker, and have less stamina than you are used to. Don't get cocky, brat. If you recall, last time you were this age it was me that had to bail you out of most situations. About to angrily retort that it wasn't true, Naruto bit his tongue and decided to review and see if he was getting cocky. Let's see. First there was Haku. Yeah, got help there. Taki? No, Kurama had my back there too. Yuki no Kuni? No Chunin exams? No Gaara? Definitely not. Damn, guess he's right. Okay, Kurama, you're right. I guess I do have to build my strength up again. Oh man, it was bad enough going through puberty once, it's going to be hell a second time. Think of this as training you love so much, brat. Since you don't have me to rely on as much, now you can become strong without anyone doubting you. If I were you though, I would try and train your sage mode with shadow clones only. If my chakra affected you so badly, I can't imagine what sage chakra would do to you. Only nodding his head in acceptance, Naruto decided to find a place to sleep before he headed to capital Crocus the next day. After which he would try and see if Sasuke landed on this world too, or a completely different one as he feared. Feeling his job was done, Naruto put his latest adventure out of mind and would almost completely forget about it come morning. Far above and away from the beach, Naruto didn't notice the airship that was floating above where the tower once stood. Inside of the ship sat a most displeased guild master. Not because his plans had been set back, no, because he didn't know anything about this new mage. All he knew was that he used lightning magic, but in an unusual way, and he wore a mask. Brain. You are lucky I decided that the information you contain was worth me bothering to save you. Now tell me everything you know about your attacker. Do you think it's the same person Jellal described saving the slaves? The guild master of the Grimoire Heart asked from his throne on the observation deck. It was quite a room, boasting a glass dome, enforced by metal beams with an impressive view to the outside. Bowing his head to his acknowledged superior, Brain could only shake his head no. Jellal said the one that escaped him was a blonde fire mage who could use earth magic. This fighter used only lightning magic. At one point I believed he might be the same since he burrowed underground and then surrounded me with stone pillars. But those same pillars shot out lightning, so it couldn't have been him. It is unheard of for one so young to wield 3 branches of elemental magic, so there is little hope it is the same person. I see. Consider yourself lucky I had my minion transport you up here before you were killed. This mage is most interesting. He is not of a dark guild, yet he does not show aversion to death. Keep an eye out for him and contact me if you find him. Jellal will not remember how he was saved, so tell him it was you that used teleportation magic to save him. In the meantime I will call Ultir from her studies and have her restore the island. It will be a good test of her power. The dark old man mused out loud. I would suggest you leave before she gets here, Brain. I will not stop her if she attacks you, and she is far more important to me than you are at the moment. Use the masked person's overconfidence against him. He believes you and Jellal dead. Do nothing to bring forth his attention. Complete your plans without drawing attention to yourself. Of course, master. I will just take Jellal and begin his training along with the other brats. Hopefully none of them will be a disappointment after all we put them through. With that, Brain rose from his position and walked out the door, leaving the master to his thoughts. A most interesting mystery we have on our hands. I wonder who this new player is and what he knows. I will not allow him to interfere with my plans with the one true magic. If I can, I will recruit him. If not, I will take him out with my own hand.